in first?
Yeah. All right. Three, two, one. I believe we're live. I'm just gonna give me 1 second just to check that we're actually live. That my audio's fine.
Your audio's gay.
Yeah, my audio's good. All right. So three, two, one. Hello and welcome to the Go Away podcast. I am Locke,
And I'm Smith.
and we'll get straight into the articles of today. So the
And
first,
I just wanted to say this one is particularly stupid. I've heard about this previously as well.
yes. So this is from the Telegraph. Knives are too sharp, and filing them down is a solution to soaring violent crime, says a judge in the UK. So, a judge has proposed a nationwide program to file down the points of kitchen knives as a solution to the country's soaring knife crime epidemic. Last week, in his valedictory address, retiring Luton Crown Court Judge Nick Madge spoke of his concern that carrying a knife had become routine in some circles and called on the government to ban the sale of large pointed kitchen knives.
So I want to say, so as you know, we are libertarians and we are pro legalization of drugs. And I would like to know and have some of the drugs that the English government is on when it comes to making these policies. Like
That would be one hell of a trip.
I honestly, what's going through their head? If you okay, so do they understand the whole blunt weapons actually hurt more and are more damaging? Like outside of anything else, like a blunt they will people actually blunt their weapons first because it hurts more and actually fucks stuff up more because a clean cut's much easier to heal. Like if you stab them with a blunt weapon, it will actually like fuck them up.
Right. So, yeah, and just the fact that that's their solution. They immediately go to banning, ban, ban, ban. That's immediately what they go to, rather than trying to, get the root cause, whether it's
Also,
mental health, whether it's immigration.
and also I don't want to say it, a ban would actually make much far more sense here than this because first of all, how are you going to enforce this? People have sharpeners. Are we going to
Right,
ban
and
sharpeners?
they banned large pointed. Well, sorry, they didn't ban them yet, but they called on the government to ban the sale of large pointed kitchen knives. So that's not attacking the root cause. That's like,
So, by the way, I've heard there's a new method of cutting steak. It's called the Paleolithic method. It's where you rip it apart with your teeth
yeah, with rocks.
with rocks. I mean, how is it going to stop anything? Nowhere else is going to ban knives. So, therefore, in England, you can just go to France, get a copper knife or something that doesn't show up in checking, and bring it over.
Right.
It'll take 4 seconds to go around this ban. It's absolutely stupid. And again,
It
it's one of the
is.
situations where you'll have a segment of the population will have weaponry, which are the people who are bad people, and then anyone who's a good person who turns their knives in or decides not to sharpen it because they want to follow the law will get fucked as usual.
Right, and we move on to the next article, which is from Fox News. So the latest, voting ends in Slovenian general election. This sounds boring, but it actually is more interesting than it sounds. And I do know that this is from a week ago, but we were on a short hiatus. So the latest in a parliamentary election in Slovenia has ended. So polls have closed in the Slovenian parliamentary election that is expected to produce no clear winner amid strong gains by the right-wing opposition party. Some 1.7 million voters in the European Union nation of 2 million were choosing Sunday from a vast array of parties, but only several are slated to make it over the 4% threshold to be represented in Slovenia's 90-member parliament. The anti-immigrant Slovenian Democratic Party of former Prime Minister, I'm not even going to try that name, Janez,
Janez Jansa.
yeah, him, was leading the polls going into the election. Trailing behind him were the anti-establishment list of Marian Sarek, the Social Democrats, and the Modern Center Party of outgoing Prime Minister Miro Cerar. So surveys have predicted that Jansa's party won't secure enough of the vote enough to rule on his own. So post-election negotiations to form a new government are likely after Sunday. So that was 7 p.m. when the polls were closing. But afterwards, we could determine that the Slovenian Democratic Party, which is again the right-wing populist anti-immigrant party, similar to UKIP or something like that, was the party that won. So they will be forming the government.
Um, so I don't know a lot of their policies, although I have found the right wing policies tend to, in the far right in Europe that isn't fascist tend to actually agree with us more than anyone else.
Right. And so the Slovenian Democratic Party is currently in negotiations with the other anti-establishment party that I mentioned, list of Marian Saric. I don't know how to pronounce that, but they are trying to form a sort of anti-establishment government, sort of like what happened in Italy, where the League formed a government with the Five Star Movement, which are both anti-establishment parties,
Which
anti-EU parties. So
what's odd is the fact that they're actually now the establishment.
yeah, uh, and it's very telling that people actually hate the EU. People hate mass immigration, and they're voting against it in large numbers across the EU. So we've seen it
Well,
in Italy, as I just mentioned.
I think we're seeing the collapse of the European experiment currently.
Yes, and I hope we are. So we've seen it in Italy. We've seen it now in Slovenia. We've seen it in Hungary, Poland. I can go on and on. And these anti-immigrant, anti-EU parties, or they're anti-immigration rather than anti-immigrant. These parties are gaining a ton.
Because the simple fact is that people don't. I'm actually pro legal immigration being easier,
Right. So am I. But
but
people are fed up with unfettered mass immigration, with with
especially with the refugee crisis happening at the time, and the fact that many of these immigrants are actually coming in and causing spikes in crime and causing issues, and you can't say anything against them because that's Islamophobic or it's racist or whatever.
yeah, exactly. And people are also tired of this supranational body, the EU, ruling over them, regulating the hell out of them, basically controlling their lives because of all these regulations. For example,
The prime,
60% of 60% of the UK's laws are made by the EU by unelected officials, by the European Commission, which are unelected officials. No one
see,
elects them.
this is the issue with the EU. They are completely undemocratic.
Exactly. And the EU Parliament is basically just a sham. It doesn't do anything.
Well, I'm sure Hitler would shed a tear at success, at the success of the Germans in conquering all of Europe eventually.
Yeah, I mean, the Germans just can't get their hands off of Europe. They're just obsessed with controlling people. And
And
the French just submit.
yeah, I don't even know how I feel about the European situation is so absolutely appalling right now.
It is. And now we move on to more populist victories. So Doug Ford, ex-Toronto mayor's brother, to be Ontario premier. So Doug Ford, the brother of troubled former Toronto mayor Rob Ford, has been elected premier of Canada's most populous province. May I just butt in there? Rob Ford was the mayor of Toronto, and he got busted. I think dealing and also smoking crack like several times, and he was like this giant overweight man, and he smoked crack all the time, was busted for doing that. And in one interview, someone accused him of saying that he wanted to eat someone else's pussy, and he said, "I'm a married man, I have enough at home."
I've got to say, I like this man.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Rob Ford, the man that I was talking about, died, but his brother is now the premier
I
of.
wonder how he died between being overweight and being a crackhead.
Yeah, I wonder. But anyway, so his brother Doug Ford has now been elected premier of Ontario, which is Canada's most populous province. So Mr. Ford's center-right progressive conservatives, which I think is an oxymoron. I don't know why they named their party that, but whatever. They wrested
Um,
control of Ontario from the Liberal Party for the first
well,
time since 2003.
I think it's a whole psychological thing. I've been thinking about this recently. I've got a theory, which is that you always have to be pro. People don't like voting for against, so you can't be like anti-abortion or anti, you know, what's it called? What's it called? Like that's why it's like pro-choice versus pro-life,
Right, yeah. You
or
can't be
for strong
anti.
borders, or for immigrants. It's never anti-immigrant or anti. It's always for something.
Right. Um, but anyway, so the populist Doug Ford has been compared to U.S. President Donald Trump. So, a former city councilor, he was close to his late brother Rob, who infamously took drugs in office, as I mentioned. So, the Conservatives took 41% of the vote, winning 76 of 124 seats in the province, according to local media. So that's pretty amazing. And the Liberals, who are
Cancer.
the incumbent, well, yes, but they were the incumbent party. They only won 7 seats. They went down from, I believe, like 50 to 7.
I think we're seeing a. So I think you do see. I believe that you see a lot of change around the turn of the century. I think we're seeing this here too. People get tired of the old order of things,
Right.
and we have had a very stagnant political system for decades. at this point. And I think this new generation is done with it, including us.
Yeah. And so I'll just give you a quick run through of the election. So the Conservatives, led by Doug Ford, went from 27 to 76 seats. So that's an increase of 49. The NDP, which is like the left-wing populist party, went from 18 to 40, so that's an increase of 22. Then the Liberals, who are like the neoliberal establishment, went from 55 to 7, which is a decrease of 48 seats. So you see the two populist parties, the right-wing populists and the left-wing populists, increasing exponentially, and then you have the centrist neoliberal globalist establishment losing by 48
And I will never
seats.
understand why people hate populists so much. Populists do say stupid shit quite often, but the thing is that populists, by default, are what people want. That's why they're called populism.
Yeah, they advocate for the people, and then you've got people like the establishment who I for one don't understand why people support neoliberal or neoconservative establishment parties. I'll never understand that. But
But
anyway,
I don't think we should go full in on the establishment because I do think that makes it sound a little bit like nutcases.
yeah, it is a bit of a nutcase Alex Jones thing to be like, "Oh, the establishment, new world order," that kind of thing. We're not like that. We're trying to rationally criticize the establishment as well as rationally criticize populists who, as Smith just mentioned, tend to say stupid things a lot of the time.
Yes. I,
Anyway, we move on to back to the U.S. In a narrow decision, Supreme Court sides with baker who turned away gay couple. So the Supreme Court on Monday ruled in favor of a Colorado baker who had refused to create a wedding cake for a gay couple. The court's decision was narrow, and it left open the larger question of whether a business can discriminate against gay men and lesbians based on rights protected by the First Amendment. The court passed on an opportunity to either bolster the right to same-sex marriage or explain how far the government can go in regulating businesses run on religious principles. Instead, Justice Anthony Kennedy's majority opinion turned on the argument that the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, which originally ruled against the baker, had been shown to be hostile to religion because of the remarks of one of its members. So, at the same time, Justice Kennedy strongly reaffirmed protections for gay rights.
I would say I am very pro gay. I'm very pro people having the right, but I'm also I do not think the government should regulate who a business serves. I don't think they should regulate how a business conducts itself.
Exactly,
So
and that is completely my opinion as well.
so yes, while I do believe that gay people should be allowed to be served anywhere, I don't agree that business should be forced to serve anyone.
Yeah,
I
and
believe
yeah, the thing is, if this guy is running his business on religious teachings or whatever, and this gay couple can't get served there, there are probably at least a dozen other businesses in the area. I mean, they're in I'm pretty sure like Denver, I think, or it's a city in Colorado. They can go somewhere else. They can have tons of different options where they will certainly serve gay couples. I mean, just
and
take your business elsewhere.
the interesting thing is also the free market will decide this eventually.
Exactly.
Because if somebody, so even if I think we should completely deregulate the market for people doing this, so I think that people
Right.
should be able to serve whoever they want on whatever criteria. The thing is to have a large, so say Walmart decides they want to stop serving black people, which I'm not saying is a good thing, but I'm saying if they decide to do this, then immediately, pretty much, you're going to be a mass boycott and they're going to get fucked economically. And this
Exactly.
is the thing, because we're in the age of the internet, we're in the age of mass media, and we're in the age of people who actually give a shit about what other races and cultures. People are forced by, even if you were to say legally you can discriminate on who you serve, not like through what's it called, not like in the government, but as business, you can choose who you can serve based on race or religion or whatever. It wouldn't work because, simply put, the people would just pretty much be like fuck off.
Exactly, and we're in the age of witch hunts, mass witch hunts on social media or whatever. So, and we'll actually get onto this later in the podcast about Chick-fil-A. But yes, as Smith was saying, any business that actually is trying to maliciously discriminate against someone will immediately be knocked out of the free marketplace.
So I think that personally, while I do disagree with discrimination in that manner, I don't think it's the government's place to be involved in it.
Right, that's my position exactly, and that's why I agree with this Supreme Court decision. So now we move on to something funny. Well, sort of funny and sort of scary at the same time. But so Ayatollah Khamenei from Iran said that Israel is a cancerous tumor that, quote, must be eradicated. So Iran's supreme leader says destruction of Jewish state is, quote, possible and will happen. Slams, quote, traitorous countries for not defending Palestinians. So the
I
Iranian supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Sunday lashed out at Israel, calling the Jewish state, again, the, quote, cancerous tumor of the region that must be, quote, removed and eradicated.
I personally think Iran's that, but of course that's probably a very unpopular opinion.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
um, I would say that first of all, Israel. First of all, I love Netanyahu's response to that, which is pretty much that Iran's a fuck up who can't make who his own people hates it.
Yeah, and
And
he sent, or sorry, not Netanyahu, but the Iranian embassy, or sorry, the Israeli embassy, tweeted out a GIF for, I think it was from like Mean Girls or
yeah,
something.
why are you so obsessed with us?
Yeah,
It says,
exactly. It was really funny.
but so what it comes down for me here is the fact that first of all, I want to remind you all that Islam is a religion of peace.
Yep.
Okay, and I want to explain in a in a multicultural sense what the Ayatollah truly meant. We will peacefully eradicate the cancer tumor that we peacefully hate, and it should be peacefully done. Right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, and this cancerous tumor, I mean, it's an Islamophobic cancerous tumor. It's even worse.
yeah, it's an Islamophobic cancer tumor that happens to actually have Muslims in its government and
Yes.
high position. If all of you who are listening should go and look up what's it called? UN. Where are you, Algeria? Where are your Jews?
Yeah, yeah. That's from UN Watch, Hillel Neuer. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
really good video. Yeah, and check out all of UN Watch's videos because they do a really good job of standing up for Israel against all of the Muslim-dominated countries in the Human Rights Council that's now run by the Saudis, I think, or no, that's the Women's Rights Council is run by the Saudis.
the
But
Women's Rights
yeah,
Council is run by the Saudis.
yeah, exactly. So yeah,
I'm
the UN is
pretty
a
glad.
joke basically, but
The Saudis are always there to stand for women's rights.
they are, they are indeed. Um,
Black.
so so Khomeini said, "Our stance against Israel is the same stance we have always taken. Israel is a malignant cancerous tumor in the West Asian region that has to be removed and eradicated. It is possible and it will happen." So he also took to Twitter to warn, quote, traitorous countries that refuse to confront Israel militarily in order to appease the U.S., saying that, quote, resistance is the only way to save Palestine from oppression.
I
He,
don't understand. So I don't understand what oppression. I understand that recently there has been oppression, but I don't understand how people can ignore the history of Israel offering again and again a state to Palestinians. And even when Palestinians live in Israel, they are willing to deal with them and keep them as citizens. And then they pretty much try to blow them up with Hamas, is the Palestinian response to the kindness shown by the Israeli government.
right, and then
And
this is just pure gold. What Khomeini said next. He has previously branded Israel as, quote, barbaric, infanticidal, and the sinister, unclean rabid dog of the region. Is that not what Hamas is? Hamas is actually infanticidal. They basically use their own children as human shields against the Israelis, and they also brag about wanting to go into Israel and kill Israeli children, kill Jewish children.
but see, it's Islam, so it's a religion of peace.
Exactly. So it's not barbaric. I mean, it's actually racist to call them barbaric, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
So we move on to the next article, which is about, again, Iran. This is about the Obama administration and Iran. Give me a second. Sorry. So the Obama administration secretly sought to give Iran access to the U.S. financial system. This is from CNBC.
Why?
So, the Obama administration secretly sought to give Iran access, albeit briefly, to the U.S. financial system by sidestepping sanctions kept in place after the 2015 nuclear deal, despite repeatedly telling Congress and the public it had no plans to do so. An investigation by Senate Republicans released Wednesday shed light on the delicate balance the Obama administration sought to strike after the deal, as it worked to ensure Iran received its promised benefits without playing into the hands of the deal's opponents. Amid a tense political climate, Iran hawks in the U.S., Israel, and elsewhere argued that the United States was giving far too much to Tehran, and that the windfall would be used to fund terrorism and other troubling Iranian activity, which it would. Iranian-backed terrorists have been increasing in numbers. Hamas, Hezbollah, those kind of things. And by the way, might I take a contrary position that Republicans are always saying, "Oh, Iran is the number one state sponsor of terror," Actually, Saudi Arabia is, and Saudi Arabia
Better
is in
by
bed with
far.
us. Yeah, Saudi Arabia is in bed with us. So, I mean, we're not immune at all because Saudi Arabia is actually the number one state sponsor of terror, and they,
If you look at them, they used the money to build mosques of Wahhabism.
yeah, in Germany, in the
they
EU,
used oil money to pretty much build up a terrorist movement across Europe and across the world.
exactly. So we are in no way immune as the U.S., but and Iran is in no way immune. I mean, of course, they are also a state sponsor of terror, but I would not say as bad as Saudi Arabia is. So we have to strike a balance here. But of course, this is I mean, it's I'm very shocked that I mean, even the Obama administration almost let Iran use our financial system. So
I
yeah,
am not shocked, honestly.
well, yeah, totally, totally balanced. We're taking a hard stance against Iran, whatever. So we move on now to crazy Bernie Sanders from Deadline. Bernie Sanders rails against Disney, quote, greed at Anaheim workers rally. This is actually like right. This is 20 minutes away from where I am right now. I'm currently in vacation in California. So yeah, this is pretty close to me. Anaheim is pretty close. So, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders revisited one of the core themes of his 2016 presidential run during a rally for workers, excoriating the Walt Disney Company for showering money on CEO Bob Iger while shortchanging Disneyland workers. Sanders told the crowd at an Anaheim church on Saturday, "I want to hear the moral defense of a company that makes $9 billion in profits, $400 million for the CEOs, and have a 30-year worker going hungry. Tell me how that is right."
Because
The
we'll say how that's right. Because that company was started by somebody who took no profit, who put the work in and took the risk in order to establish it, and it was ran by people who worked their entire lives and educated themselves to go into high demand, into low demand, high supply jobs that are very competitive. Well,
yeah, and
people
then
who are saying that are low paid are in the exact opposite position of taking the safe route.
yeah, so would you rather be unemployed or be employed at Disneyland, where you actually do get a good salary? I mean, compared to what Bernie Sanders is saying it is. But if you take the $9 billion in profits and then you take everyone that wants to be a Disneyland employee, which is actually a lot, I mean, you're not going to be able to pay everyone, enough to build a mansion, are you?
Well, that's basic economics, and is therefore anti-poor.
Yeah, exactly. So the rally was attended by hundreds of Disneyland workers who are helping a collection of unions across many industries gather signatures for a municipal ballot initiative. If it makes the ballot in November, the measure would require large companies taking subsidies from the city of Anaheim to pay workers at least $15 an hour. That is not good. Government price fixing never works. That's just basic economics.
That's actually what causes such huge food shortages in communist countries is price fixing.
Yeah. So we move on to the next article, which I think you'll get a kick out of, Smith. So Miss America is scrapping its swimsuit competition and will no longer judge based on physical appearance. Why don't you take
Um,
this?
See, I think that what we should do is now all everyone. I think that should be a requirement for entry to Miss America that you must be at least 400 pounds with blue hair and piercings.
Hmm.
Because I think having any sort of conventional beauty is actually sexist on a grand level. In actuality, this is retarded. Why on earth are you unable to have a contest with some aspect of beauty? It's like, is this? Are you so caught up in your jealousy that you do not have a good body that you're unable to allow other people to have that?
Yeah, I think this is just insecurity from the radical feminists, putting pressure onto the Miss America competition. So Miss America is scrapping its swimsuit competition and will no longer judge contestants based on physical appearance. Isn't that the whole point of the goddamn thing? It's the whole point of the competition to judge on physical appearance. But whatever. The organization announced this on last Tuesday. We are
So
no
from
longer.
now on, we will no longer rank the richest people in the world by their actual wealth.
Yep.
We'll rank them by how they identify. If they identify as the richest person in the world, that's what they rank.
Right. Quote, "We are no longer a pageant," Gretchen Carlson, the first former Miss America to be named chair of the board of trustees of the Miss America organization, said on GMA. "We are a competition."
Right.
I mean, well, what's the competition if there's no like swimsuit portion or whatever? Isn't that the whole? I don't understand.
Who can scream the loudest about the patriarchy? Is actually I've heard it's a new one.
Oh yeah, probably. I mean, yeah. So they will now take part in live interactive sessions with the judges, according to what are these live interactive sessions?
Can I be a judge here?
Yeah, yeah,
Honestly, I'd like some live interactive sessions. As long as, unfortunately, now there's no swimsuit contest.
yeah. But I mean, you
Maybe,
might
maybe there'll
still.
be no swimsuits. Maybe it'll just be like straight, just naked women, which I think would be an upgrade actually. But personally,
I'm not
I
going to comment.
I would tune in for that.
I'm not going to comment.
No
uh,
need to. I know you agree. You
anyway,
patriarchal asshole.
anyway, back to politics. So the CFPB effectively dissolves the Consumer Advisory Board. So this is something that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is one of these overarching government bodies that our senator Elizabeth Warren instated. She was the mastermind behind the CFPB. So Mick Mulvaney, who's the budget director, I think, took yet another swipe at his Consumer Watchdog Bureau, all but terminating an entire board of advocates who advised the agency about fair lending in underserved communities. Good, good. It's good that he terminated it. So the 25 members of the Consumer Advisory Board, who I assume are all millionaires or billionaires, established by law as part of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, were told on a conference call Wednesday that the board would no longer meet again until new members were appointed.
Yeah,
Good.
I mean, I don't know not enough of what they do, so
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I will admit that I don't know that much about what they do. I just know that they get up into people's business too much, as every government wing does.
yeah,
But I do think that it's good that you can probably cut the fat anywhere in government, and that'll be beneficial.
yeah. Honestly, I'm done with government intervention in the economy. I don't think it ever did anything well.
Yes, history has shown that it does absolutely no good at all. So now we move on to again something to do with the financial system. This is from Reason. Social Security will be insolvent in 16 years. Maybe Congress should do something about it. Medicare will run dry even sooner. Do you trust anyone in Washington to solve this problem?
Well,
Social
I mean,
Security.
Social Security is actually a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
In the
Social
way it's
Security.
structured, if you actually look at if you go into the IRS definition of a Ponzi scheme and you compare it, you cross analyze it with Social Security, they are almost identical.
Right. Social Security will be insolvent by 2034, 3 years earlier than previously expected, and one major fund within Medicare will run dry by 2026, according to a report released Tuesday by the trustees of the two programs.
Now, personally, I think there should be programs like Social Security on a private basis.
Right. I think it should be
But
an opt-in rather than you're automatically in it because you're a citizen.
right, like I don't like if I don't want to pay for Social Security, I don't want to get paid out by it. It's then why? Why should I have to?
Exactly. And so Reason says, let's review. Social Security is a $900 billion program that provides income to 67 million Americans. About 47 million of them are over age 65, and the majority of the rest are disabled. If you're within 15 to 20 years of that threshold,
Wait, I'm disabled. Can I get that?
you might not be relying on that income yet, but you're likely to be depending on it in your future financial plan if you have one. Medicare provides health benefits to about 57 million older Americans, more than twice as many people as had their health insurance disrupted by Obamacare. And you remember how big of a deal that rightly was. So they also
Speaking
state,
of, I've had this argument recently. I don't understand why you should ever involve yourself in what health insurance is required to provide.
mhm,
Like, because it's like mandating what car somebody drives. Okay, you want to drive the road. Well, we found this $100,000 car is the safest drive, but I can't afford that. Fuck you! You're buying $100,000 car. That's all we're allowing on the market anymore. It's like in like Virginia, you're required to have like postpartum care, like post birth care in all healthcare,
yep,
including for men.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
so Reason continues to state that it is important to remember that insolvency is not the same thing as bankruptcy. By 2026 and 2034, respectively, Medicare and Social Security will not have enough money to pay the full cost of their obligations, but that's not the same thing as saying they'll have no money at all. Yeah, that's still really bad.
yes, we still need to be make sure we're not being fear mongers.
Yes. So it's not the end of the world, but it's not going to be a bad thing. I mean, it's not going to be a good thing, rather. It's going to be quite bad. So anyway,
To be
so
fair, maybe it will lead to its collapse and that lead to less government involvement.
hopefully. So the biggest primary night of 2018 yet offers clues and questions ahead of midterms. This is from ABC News, and this is referring to last Tuesday's primaries. Uh, so these were in, I believe, Montana, South Dakota, Iowa, New Jersey, Alabama, Mississippi, New Mexico, and the biggest one, of course, California, where I am now. So some 85 congressional districts, 5 governorships, and 5 U.S. Senate seats are up this cycle in the 8 states that held primaries Tuesday in what was arguably the most consequential night of the 2018 election cycle thus far. Several high-profile races in California have still not been projected by the Associated Press, and both parties may have to wait days to see which candidates advance to November in several U.S. House districts expected to be competitive in November. Of course, that those were already sorted out, but those aren't important because those are just the House districts. So Senator Dianne Feinstein easily advanced to the fall in the U.S. Senate primary in California, but
I
her
wonder what
general
religion she is.
oh God, just ease up on that, please.
I'm
And
Jewish. I'm allowed to say this shit.
yeah, I know. It's just people will get angry at us. Um, and her general election opponent is going to be California State Senator Kevin De Leon, who mounted a challenge to Feinstein from the left.
A bird
Uh,
pretty much committed suicide by banging headfirst in my window.
uh, what?
Yeah, like a bird just flew directly into my window headfirst.
Okay, this is this is
Sorry.
this is the kind of
I
news that we cover on this podcast.
Yes, this is very important news. This is obviously because the government has been putting
Yeah, the
fluoride
government's
in the
regulating
water.
the air. The government's regulating the air too much, so the bird
It's
had no
not only
choice.
throwing the frogs gay, it's making birds crash into windows.
Exactly.
It's the chemtrails.
Right. So let me continue. California's Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom also advanced to November in the crowded race to be the next governor of the Golden State. The AP projected the race shortly after midnight Eastern Time, blah, blah, blah. He also took veiled shots at President Trump and the policies of his administration. Newsom called California, quote, a state where we don't criminalize diversity. We celebrate diversity. We don't obstruct justice. We demand justice. Well, it's sort of rich coming from you, Newsom, that you're saying you don't obstruct. You're obstructing Trump's policies when it comes to immigration. Just thought I'd point that out. I'm not going to
But
take a
see,
position.
finally a Democrat does it.
Right, exactly. I mean, I'm not going to take a position on whether the federal government. I'm not too sure on whether the federal government should be involved in the states when it comes to immigration.
I don't think. I think actually something where the federal government should be involved personally, because
Yeah, that's where I would lean because it is sort of a national security issue.
and
Uh,
also because there's free movement through states. So if you're able to get citizenship within one state,
right,
then you can move to any state you want. So that would mean you could have that would mean you have a system where people could go into one state that's easier and then move to what state they want.
right. So, uh, yes, so that is the position that we both take. So Newsom's opponent in the general election will be Republican John Cox, who has the endorsement of President Trump, but the uphill task of winning
I've got
statewide
to say,
office.
I feel bad for anyone with the last name Cox. I'm sorry. I do.
Just to be fair, it's with an X, not a CKS, so we can say it. Um, but he has the uphill task of winning statewide office in the increasingly blue California. So I'm actually surprised that a Republican advanced to the general election, but it is good. And a lot of people here, like you would be surprised at how many people are Republicans out here because so where I am is in Orange County, which is probably the most conservative county in California. And basically, all you see like yard signs for Republicans all over the place. You see like Trump bumper stickers all over the place. You see NRA bumper stickers all over the place. Um,
By the way, you
which
don't
is
understand why the NRA gets so much shit because the NRA is actually the oldest civil rights organization.
yeah, and they're actually really popular. When like, uh, I mean, I'm not going to get too anecdotal here, but I'm down the street from my uncle's house right here, and he has a whole arsenal full of guns, which is pretty cool. And I'm probably going to go out shooting with him this week, which will be awesome.
You murder children.
Yep. Actually, please don't take that out of context. Anyone who's watching, when I go shooting, I mean I'm going to shoot at targets. I'm not going to shoot at people. It's targets. That's what shooting practice is. All right, calm down. Anyway, the race also encountered.
That's why you have a collection of trench coats.
Oh God. Okay. The race also encountered some unexpected drama on Tuesday with the news that over 100,000 voters in Los Angeles County had their name left off rosters at various polling stations, much to the frustration of Democratic gubernatorial candidate Antonio Villaraigosa, the former mayor of Los Angeles, who called on the Secretary of State to keep voting booths through Friday. So they can't blame racism on this because every part of local government in California is controlled by Democrats, and according to their own logic, Democrats can't be racist. So they can't use the racism argument when it's like, oh, Latinos are being left off voter rolls. Well, you can't use that argument because it's run by Democrats, and by your own standards, Democrats can't be racist.
I think that, and I think personally that people sometimes just don't want to vote when both options are retarded.
Yeah,
That, this is the free market society in government as well. If both options are shit, people just won't buy.
right. And so there are actually some surprising Republican waves. Um, in California, there were some surprising Republican, holds and victories. Republicans got second place in a lot of primaries that had Democratic incumbents. So that'll mean a Democratic incumbent will be facing off against a Republican, where they would normally just be Democrat versus Democrat in the general election because California elections work very strangely. Instead of having a Democratic primary and a Republican primary, you have one primary where all candidates are in it. So you could have two Democrats go to the general, one Democrat, one Republican, or one Republican and another Republican. Or you could have like a Democrat and an independent, or a Democrat and a Green Party candidate, which is what we've seen in some of these primaries.
And what
But
this leads to is a one-party state.
yeah, exactly. So it's a really retarded way to select candidates. And that
There
actually,
should honestly not be a primary system in the first place.
yeah, I mean, it just screws over
If you look
third
at
parties.
CCP Gray, it explains in Rules for Rulership, it explains how it explains in passing how the way the government structure has led to leading to entrenched power holding on to that position.
Right. Wait, so I'm curious about what you were saying, Smith. What would you like? I'm not trying to challenge you here. I'm just like asking, what would you put in place of primaries? Because like
Um,
I agree with primaries. I just think that they shouldn't be like the California kind.
I disagree personally with have. I think that the elections. I don't even agree with forcing internal votes within the party. I think that if you run for president, it should be much more basis of everyone runs. I think we need to split up parties a lot more. I think we need what's it called? The system where, God, instant runoff voting,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I actually
and
do agree.
I think we need to have a system where we don't have primaries. We don't have the system which forces you into a smaller box of who you can vote for. You don't do a system where people have to say either register as Democratic, Republican, or Independent, so you can only see that version. Like
Right.
you literally, everyone gets a ballot that says exactly the same thing. It says all the candidates that are running, and that whether that's online or
And you
that's
rank them.
and you rank who you want, and
Right.
that's how it's run.
Yeah, yeah, and that's actually how elections work in Ireland. Like they'll have multi-member constituencies, and multiple people from the party will run. But it's not like they're running against each other. They're just trying to run to get into a certain place. So like you'll have four members in a constituency. So you just have to get into one first, second, or third, or fourth place, or
And
you'll
this
only have three.
because the issue with the current system of government in America, right, is the fact that the reason we have two parties which are entrenched is because in a first past the post voting system, the more rivals you have, the easier it is to get elected because
Hmm.
it splits up your opposition.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
they have to conglomerate into the least bad voter blocks. People won't forget the Democratic and Republican parties. The reason they always go for the extremes is because those are the most consistent voters. That they're actually not a singular party. The Republican Party is made up from conservatives of all creeds. You have religious nuts. You have people like and Locke who would probably vote Republican because you're closer to that because of
Right.
economics.
Yeah. Yeah. So just
And
we're like libertarian-leaning Republicans who would just vote because they're better stewards of the economy.
yeah, so this is the issue, and you have the situation where even though I disagree with like 75% of what Republicans say, I disagree with 90% of what the Democrats say. And I'm stuck in a situation where I don't really like either of them, but because of first past the post, everyone's stuck in a situation where it's like, yes, but if we split up the party, then guess what? The Democrats are going to win every single time. So that's
Yeah.
why instant runoff voting and lack of primaries, and also not funding specific parties governmentally or funding all parties governmentally. Don't just fund ones with a specific percentage of the vote, because that fundamentally hinders parties that are smaller.
Yeah, and also the whole debate nonsense, like with is it the Commission on Presidential Debates that has it now? They're basically just bought off by the Democratic and Republican parties, so they won't include third party options. But then the problem is if they do include third party options, then say for instance we want a Republican to win, if there's like a Green Party person, or sorry, a Libertarian Party person, they'll peel away votes from the Republican, and then we could end up with a far left Democrat. So I mean,
And
there
and so
there are
and
issues. I mean, every single facet of the first past the post voting system is an issue.
this is the thing. So I am actually, which is actually rather popular. I am for electoral college systems in the current first past the post, because I think it allows representation of the middle of the country, which often would which we pretty much, if there wasn't enough for the electoral college system, if there wasn't that, then people in the middle of the country would be fucked, because all you have to do is go to California, New York, and first of all, Democrats would win every single time
Right.
because sheer population. You would only have to go to the populous areas on the coast. You wouldn't have to ever have to go to wherever in the middle of the country.
Yeah, and I actually wonder when was the last election that the Republicans actually won the popular vote? Like, I mean, presidential. Because Republicans win the popular vote with like Senate elections or House elections all the time because a lot of Democrats just don't care about voting. Um, but I would wonder when was the last time a Republican? I think it was actually probably W's second run in 2004 is probably when the Republicans won the majority of the vote, just because John Kerry was an awful candidate, and
So
also you know
this
Bush
is
did
why we need this ranked voting system, because,
yeah.
and we also need more exposure for. Now, obviously, I'm not for government, but I do think it would be interesting if there was some sort of station that allowed equal news time to every party, so you could like tune in.
I can't support that on principle, but I do agree
No,
that it would be
not run
interesting.
by the government, but like some sort of station that was run privately. That might actually be something we should start eventually if we get big enough
Yeah,
traction. That will allow everyone of equal voice, like Democrats, Republicans, etc., so people can see their options. But the issue is that in the current system, everyone just says, "Well, I agree with libertarians, or I agree with the Green Party, even though I hate them, or I agree with anything. I just can't vote for them because if I vote for them, then my vote's wasted." And I get that.
yeah,
I
and
disagree with
and it is
that.
wasted basically.
Yeah, but I get that, and
The
that's
thing.
why our current system is horrible. And the other also why the Democrats and Republicans are never going to remove it, because it would fundamentally lower the power.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see the basically the Democrats just die off in a hole somewhere because I mean if the neoliberal establishment continues to control them, they'll just run them into the ground. The only way that they'll actually succeed is if they get someone like Bernie Sanders controlling the party, where they'll just promise people free shit, and they'll end up winning just because they're promising people free shit.
And I
Um,
honestly prefer Bernie Sanders to Hillary, because
yeah,
at least Bernie Sanders is what he says he is.
exactly.
He's a
Um,
nutcase, but he says he's a nutcase.
yeah, it's pretty obvious when you hear him speak. But I would like to see a scenario when there's actually like a viable third party that actually can overtake the Democratic Party if it continues to run itself into the ground. But anyway, we've been on this for too long, so we're going to move on to a Vox article. The outlook for a blue wave explained. The generic ballot is tightening, but Democrats are still narrowly favored. So, Democratic optimism about the 2018 midterms reached a crescendo level this winter after improbable wins in special elections in Alabama and western Pennsylvania. Liberals or leftists began to predict a blue wave, a sweeping series of electoral victories comparable to the GOP's 2010 successes that would indicate the resistance so brave, the resistance and check.
It's like a red wave, but more centrist and more pussified.
Yeah, exactly. It would indicate the resistance and check Donald Trump's power. But now Trump's approval ratings are ticking up. The generic ballot polls are tightening, and Senate races across the country are shaping up to be more competitive, much more competitive than Democrats had hoped in states like West Virginia, North Dakota, and Indiana. Even safer-looking Democratic senators like Bill Nelson in Florida and Sherrod Brown in Ohio are facing extremely well-funded opponents with solid statewide name recognition. The question for many liberals, leftists, then is, did the wave peak too soon, only to dissipate in the face of a strengthening economy? So anyway, this is what Trump tweeted. Do you want to read it out?
Yeah, let me pull it up.
I'll
On
send. I'll just send it to you again.
Oh yeah. By the way, personally, I've got to say, my personal approval rating for Trump has been going up recently too.
Same with me, honestly.
Um, let me find this quote.
It's the tweet.
Yeah, great night for the Republicans. Congratulations to. Okay, let me actually. Congratulations. Okay, great night for the Republicans. Congratulations to John Cox on a really big number in California. He can win. Even fake news CNN said that the Trump impact was really big. Big. Much bigger than they ever thought possible. So much for the big blue wave. It might be a big red wave. Working hard.
That was a beautiful rendition. Thank you. So, yeah, the House Democrats' polling advantage has narrowed. Um, so, in the final week of 2017, Democrats held a generic ballot polling advantage that averaged 13 points or more. Now, the general trend has been in Republicans' favor, and Democrats only have an advantage of roughly 5.5 points.
By the way, I would actually like to say I recently Trump has actually been impressing me greatly with his successes. I do think
Yeah,
that there is something to be there is some credence to be given to having somebody who's willing to push the button does kind of get people to listen because and I'm not for warfare, but I do understand where people are coming from. Where it's like the thing is with other candidates, they would never gotten this much done with Korea and with situations like this because the thing is they were never been willing. They would never seemed unhinged enough to actually do anything about it. That's Trump's greatest advantage, seeming unhinged, which I guess is kind of says a lot about our country currently. But
right.
that is what has made him able to do things that other people haven't. And I'm honestly pretty happy with the fact that he's diffusing a lot of situations. And the funny thing is, he's actually done more to earn a Nobel Peace Prize than the president who did last time, who carbon bombed like 11 countries.
Right, but I don't think we should be too too dick sucking of Trump because I mean he does say
I'm not dick sucking Trump. I
no
think he's
no
a moron.
yeah yeah no
A state. I think he's as put eloquently by Remy. He's a state like grab crotch.
yeah
But
exactly that is a pretty good description.
I do think he's been doing pretty well, especially compared to how people think of him.
Yes, I do agree, and I do like a lot of what Trump is doing. I just don't want people to think that we're like sycophants for Trump, and I know we're not. But anyway, so yeah, the big picture is that the blue wave is probably not going to happen. My prediction is the Democrats will pick up like maybe I don't know 10 seats in the House, maybe more, maybe less, give or take five, and that they'll lose 1 or 2 seats in the Senate because you've got really uh, unfavorable or really unpopular Senate incumbents like Joe Manchin in West Virginia, Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota, or you know other people like that in red states who are probably going to lose their seats, like Joe Donnelly in Indiana. They're probably going to lose their seats because
Oh, by the
they're
way, have you've heard about what's his face? I think we should mention the Virginia guy, the
oh
rea-
Don Blankenship.
no the neo reactionary.
Oh, didn't we already talk about him?
I don't know if we talked about him.
Yeah, we did.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay,
we talked
edit
about
that
him on the
out.
last episode, or the one before the last one. But
I
anyway,
forgot that. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's fine. We were just mentioning that the child molester guy in Virginia. Um, but anyway, we'll move on to the next article from The Hill. So the GOP embraces single-payer healthcare attack in California. Republicans,
Yes.
yes, I know. Republicans are seizing on Democratic demands for a single-payer healthcare system as an attack line in California, arguing that candidates backing the issue spearheaded by Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont are out of step with their districts. My opponent wants socialized medicine and government-run healthcare, Representative Mimi Walters from California, a GOP incumbent and top Democratic target, told The Hill. The district does not support it. Walters represents one of 7 GOP-held seats in California that Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton won in 2016 that Democrats are seeking to flip. If Republicans lose those seats, it could greatly increase the chances that the GOP loses the House majority. Republicans say that Democratic candidates might have done well running on Medicare for All in crowded primaries when they needed to move to the left. But they say the position will be a major drag in a general election decided by more centrist voters, which now I am saying that these that like the district that I'm in right now, which is representative by Daryl Issa, I think his name is a much more centrist district. Like the Issa guy is not a crazy right-wing Republican. He's quite moderate. These districts are not going to be won by far left Democrats screaming Medicare for all, socialized healthcare.
Yeah, one would hope not.
Yeah, I hope. And I mean, I think it's a good sign that the GOP is realizing that the Democrats are trying to push this socialized medicine BS and are capitalizing on it.
I mean, honestly, I don't know what to say apart from the fact that the Democrat ideals have been proven to not be economically viable for after time after time. If you look at any of the time the Democratic policies economically have put in, the economy has actually been worse permanently.
Right. So now we're going. Sorry, we're doing a ton of stuff on California today. I think this is the last thing on California, but I just found this amusing. So from the LA Times, radical plan to split California into three states earns spot on November ballot.
Um, Honestly, I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean I can't really debate that. I mean,
But also, I don't want the 52 states of America. Like, can we just conglomerate like Rhode Island and Connecticut into Massachusetts then?
yeah, we should annex those two. But anyway, California's 168-year run as a single entity, hugging the continent's edge for hundreds of miles and sprawling east across mountains and desert, could come to an end next year as a controversial plan to split the Golden State into three new jurisdictions qualified Tuesday for the November 6th ballot. If a majority of voters who cast ballots agree, a long and contentious process would begin for three separate states to take the place of California, with one primarily centered around Los Angeles and the other two divvying up the counties to the north and the south. Completion of the radical plan, far from certain, given its many hurdles at judicial, state, and federal levels, would make history. It would be the first division of an existing U.S. state since the creation of West Virginia in 1863. Three states will get us better infrastructure, better education, and lower taxes, Tim Draper, the Silicon Valley venture capitalist who sponsored the ballot measure, said in an email to the Times last summer when he formally submitted the proposal. States will be more accountable to us and can cooperate and compete for citizens. So, anyway, this is going to devolve California into Northern California, which will be, like Sacramento, San Francisco, and everything to the north of that. Then there'll be just California, which will be Los Angeles and the coast. I mean, like the Central Coast area, so Los Angeles, Monterey. Then Southern California will be Fresno, Bakersfield, Riverside, San Diego, Orange County, where I am right now. That's going to be like the more conservative area. And then Northern California and California will be the much more left-wing areas.
And actually, that's a very good thing because,
Yeah,
especially right
yeah, people
now,
are going to be represented better.
also it's a currently California represents a powerful Democratic bloc that shouldn't really be there.
Yeah,
It creates an unfair advantage.
yeah. And if you had three different states, all with their own electoral votes in a presidential election, you could get more electoral votes for because Southern California is actually really densely populated, but there are a ton of Republicans here. It's like a big suburban sprawl with a ton of Republicans that's really densely populated. So you could get a lot of votes for a lot of electoral votes for a Republican. Then you get you still have a really densely populated California and Northern California that would also give a proportional number of electoral votes to Democrats. So you'd have a much more proportional system, which is I think we've hit on this a lot with proportionality when it comes to electoral systems.
Oh, yeah.
So next we have this story about the commutation of Alice Johnson. This was inspired by Kim Kardashian's visit to the White House. Just give me 1 second. I just need to check my audio. All right. Yes, I believe my audio is fine. Let me
I would
just.
tell you if your audio is bad. Obviously, I listen to you too.
Huh?
If your audio was bad, I would tell you. I have to hear you too.
Right, but sometimes it's different on the stream, but whatever. Um, so this is from Axios. Scoop: Trump has commuted Alice Johnson's life sentence. So President Trump has signed a commutation for Alice Johnson, currently serving a life sentence for a nonviolent drug offense, according to a source with direct knowledge. The Washington Post first reported last night that he had considered pardoning Johnson. The details. Johnson's cause was championed last week at the White House by Kim Kardashian. White House senior advisor Jared Kushner, who pushed for Johnson's pardon, had been in contact with Kardashian over the past several months on the issue. Per source familiar, White House counsel Don McGahn is skeptical of the
Is
merits of
that John
pardon.
McCain under a pseudonym?
Yeah, I don't Like what name is that? Don McGain. Yeah, I think it could be. He's skeptical of the merits of pardoning Johnson. So the big picture, this is part of a broader effort led by Jared Kushner to highlight the issue of prison reform, particularly focused on nonviolent offenders, which is really good because I don't think there should be any such thing as a nonviolent drug crime. I don't think there should be such a thing as a nonviolent crime in general unless it's a financial crime.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, like, and the details of Alice Johnson's her crime. I'm just reading this off of memory. I believe it was because she was like running a cocaine ring, which I understand is pretty serious. But if you legalize all drugs, including cocaine, there would be no need for a cocaine ring. So that would defeat the purpose of her sentence. So I definitely agree with commuting her sentence. And by the way, commutation just means that she doesn't have to serve the rest of her sentence, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have a criminal record. That's different from a
Yeah,
pardon. A pardon means that you don't have a criminal record. It erases the criminal charge. But yes, I do agree with this.
I think it should be a pardon actually, personally. But
Yeah, I agree. I do think it should be a pardon because it's stupid conviction. But anyway, I think it's just hilarious that Kim Kardashian was the one who had to sponsor this or had to,
I don't have to. I don't want to agree with Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, who does, honestly?
Why?
So we move on to the next article, which is another good thing when it comes to another good move when it comes to drugs. This is from Canada, eh? So Canada is moving closer to the legalization of marijuana from BBC. A key legislative hurdle has been passed as Canada moves
I mean,
closer
you
to
can always stick
legalizing.
12-year-olds there. Why can't you smoke weed while doing it?
Yeah, honestly, a key legislative hurdle has been passed as Canada moves closer to legalizing recreational cannabis. Canadian senators passed the Cannabis Act by 56 votes to 30, with one abstention after studying the landmark legislation for 6 months. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who we all love, has committed to making marijuana legal by this summer. Canada will be Canada will be the first G7 nation to legalize recreational use of the drug. Medical use has been legal since 2001.
What's
I think this is
G7? By the way, I'm curious.
G7. We will actually be getting onto the G7 later, but G7 is the economic bloc of nations that is us. So the U.S., Canada, France, Italy, the U.K., and Germany and Japan. Yeah, that's seven.
Oh,
We're
so
like
wait, it's like World War II Electric Boogaloo.
exactly. But we're all in the same team apparently, and we will get onto this soon. But anyway, this is a great step for Canada, and I'm very ashamed to say that I agree with Justin Trudeau
I am
on
at
this.
the side. I'm gonna flip side. I'm now anti-legalization of marijuana.
Yeah, just
Um,
because frickin' Trudeau.
just because Trudeau agrees with it.
We've got more about Trudeau here. This is really interesting. He's now an official male feminist from the Daily Beast. Justin Trudeau
I thought
denies
that was a
groping.
eunuch. I thought that was just called a eunuch.
Well, listen to this. Justin Trudeau denies groping female reporter at festival in 2000. He's officially a real male feminist. He assaulted a female reporter.
I'm surprised he denied it. I mean, it's like who wouldn't deny that? Why is this always like? Why do people always say like he denied it? Like, I think the real news is gonna be when somebody actually is like, yes, I did that.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd wording. But Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been forced to deny groping a young female reporter at a music festival in 2000 after a report about the alleged incident resurfaced online this week. The allegation was first published in an editorial in the Creston Valley Advance, a local newspaper in British Columbia, in August 2000. Photos of the editorial were widely shared on social media this week and gained further attention after being published by Breitbart on Thursday. The editorial accuses Trudeau of, quote, inappropriately handling and groping the young reporter, then reportedly telling her, "I'm sorry, if I had known you were reporting for a national paper, I never would have been so forward." In a statement issued Thursday, a spokesman for Trudeau said,
I
oh,
like
sorry.
I like the description of him inappropriately handling, but he sounds just like a creative goods.
Oh god. So in a statement issued Thursday, I said spokesman. Sorry, I meant spokesperson. For Trudeau said he remembers being in Creston for the Avalanche Foundation, but doesn't think he had any negative interactions there. He doesn't think. Okay.
Well, I don't think it was a negative interaction for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't doubt for a second that Trudeau groped a woman because with these male feminists, it's so common that they're serial sexual assaulters or sexual predators.
No, that's actually they're just helping women find their sexuality and making them
Oh,
feel.
that's true. That's true. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said something so offensive. But yeah, seriously, like they're internalizing an external struggle. Like this is something that Dan Savage said about like really anti-gay people, that they're internalizing an external struggle when these anti-gay people are actually really gay inside. Um it's like the same thing but with these
It's
male
like you.
feminists. How?
Well, you're like really gay on the inside,
I never said I was I'm not anti-gay.
but it's fine. Just the gay bit. That was what I was saying.
Uh, I I'm confused because I'm not like anti-gay, nor do I try to hide the fact that I'm quite effeminate compared to other men. But whatever. Um,
I just mainly
so
wanted to call you gay.
sorry.
I just mainly wanted to call you gay.
Oh, okay. That was all a ruse. I see. I'm
It
offended.
would. It's a trap.
Let's drop. Yeah. Anyway. What was I saying? Yes. So these male feminists always end up being internalizing an external struggle where they want to, or they want to be like they want to basically rape women, but they can't because they're passing themselves off as male feminists and allies and everything like this.
They
But
really
whatever.
want to rape women.
Yes. So we move on, and this might tickle your fancy. So the TSA, your favorite organization, Smith,
Uh,
searches a 96-year-old woman in a wheelchair in a viral video, sparking outrage.
well, I've heard those are the most common terrorists.
Yeah.
Well, I obviously they also like groping children.
Yep. So many are livid over a now viral video of the TSA officials patting down a 96-year-old woman in a wheelchair at Washington Dulles International Airport in a 6-minute screening, being described as, quote, totally disgusting and, quote, uncalled for on Facebook. On May 15th, Jeanne LeBrier Clarkson shared the 6-minute clip to the social network of her nonagenarian mother, Evelyn LeBrier, being searched in her wheelchair by two female TSA security agents at the Virginia airport. Clarkson, LeBrier, and Clarkson's fiancée were traveling home to Anderson, Virginia after visiting Clarkson's son in Maryland, CBS News reports. So, yeah, this is like, I just don't understand. As the people on Facebook said, it's completely uncalled for.
I don't really think the people on Facebook should be a common source that we use, but okay.
Right. No, no, I'm not. I know. I'm just saying the way that they put it was correct, that it is completely uncalled for. Um,
The
but yes,
TSA is a farce.
yes. And may I just point out, if this were a black woman, it would be racism. But since it's a white woman, we only see it in Fox News. Just pointing out that media double standard. I just seem to find it everywhere.
Yep.
Um, so this should also be quite interesting. From Fox News again, violent skirmishes between Antifa and right-wing activists draw national attention to Portland, Oregon. Who would have thought that Antifa would be violent? And you know what's something that's interesting? Um, my uncle, not the cool libertarian one with the guns here in California, but the uncool communist one in back in Boston. He says Antifa is infiltrated by the CIA, and that the ones who are being violent are CIA operatives.
Yes. That just sounds like Alex Jones Commie Edition.
Repeat that, sorry?
That just sounds like Alex Jones Communist Edition.
Exactly. Um, anyway, so Portland, Oregon, viral videos of bloody skirmishes between right-wing activists and self-described anti-fascists have drawn national attention to Portland, Oregon, a city a city of storied political activism that has struggled to keep the peace at dueling rallies, illustrating a microcosm of the nation's political division. Tensions erupted most recently this month when members of the so-called Antifa movement showed up at a march organized by a right-wing group called Patriot Prayer. By the way, Patriot Prayer is not, to my knowledge, violent. They're just pro-gun.
How
Um,
dare they be pro gun?
yeah, exactly. How dare they? So as police tried to keep order, fistfights broke out in a string of downtown parks fringed with aspen trees and dotted with plaques honoring Portland's founders and fallen World War II soldiers. Videos from the conflict on social media show one man being knocked to the ground and repeatedly kicked as he covers his head with his hands. In another, a man lying on the ground is dragged away from a group of attackers, his face bloodied. In a third, two men, including one wearing homemade body armor, take swings at a third man who's backed against a wall with his arms raised. I wonder who the aggressors were in all these instances. I wonder.
Well, they like guns, so they're automatically the aggressors.
Exactly. So This is also quite an interesting article from CNN. Syracuse University suspends 15 fraternity members over, quote, extremely racist video. Syracuse University has suspended 15 members of a professional fraternity, their lawyer said, after they appeared in videos that the school's chancellor has described as, quote, extremely racist and offensive.
Were these videos actually extremely racist or offensive?
I don't know, but I wouldn't really trust CNN to say they were. So the two videos published in April by the student school newspaper show members of the Theta Tau engineering fraternity using racial slurs, simulating sexual acts, and mocking people with physical and intellectual disabilities. And they didn't provide any quotes from the video, nor did they provide the video, so I can't say if they were actually, quote, uneducated, racist, homophobic, misogynist, sexist, ableist, and intolerant.
So, by the way, they are at Syracuse, so obviously, if they're uneducated, then whose fault is
it? Exactly. Yeah, I just think that most of these things when there's a college fraternity or people on a college campus who get busted for these things, they're mostly probably just being ironic. So I wouldn't take it seriously, and nor is it really the business of like the administration to be searching through students' personal phones or whatever.
Well, if they publish this.
Yeah. If they publish it and they're saying, "Oh, we're from Syracuse, we're from this fraternity," then obviously, the administration has to take a position.
If they were searching through their phones, that's an invasion of privacy.
Yeah, and I don't think it was reported whether it was published or not. But yeah, I'm certainly willing to say if it was published, then yes, this is called for. But the thing is, I don't know if they're being ironic or not, and I bet they were being ironic. But anyway, so. The end of net neutrality. It's the end of the world. The end of net neutrality is here.
I don't find it to be the end of the world, honestly.
I was joking.
I know. I agree. It's again a move towards the free market.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have much to say here. It's just the net neutrality has been repealed. The controversial repeal of Obama-era net neutrality protections is officially set to take effect on Monday, which was 2 days ago. Despite ongoing efforts from members of Congress, state officials, tech companies, and advocacy groups to save the rules. The Republican-led Federal Communications Commission, FCC, voted along party lines in December to repeal the rules, blah, 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 and we all know about Ajit Pai, the
I
cringe.
Ajit Pai will agree with him.
Yeah, I do hate agreeing with him. I mean, actually, I'm pretty ambivalent when it comes to this net neutrality thing. I think both sides have sort of hyped it up too much. I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't know enough about the positives to say whether it would be a good thing. All I've heard are the negative arguments.
That people who are pro net neutrality, the issue is actually it does. The good thing about it is that it does include transparency laws, which is why I'm for the repeal. Is that they will also want to put in transparency laws in combination with this, right?
Okay, well that's good.
The funny thing is, people who are anti it are consistent people who censor people on the right, who consistently into YouTube and Google and that sort of conglomerate area,
right?
Who have bad speech, have a bad history of being speech inhibitors.
Exactly. So speaking of inhibiting speech, so from Sky News in the UK, march against jailing of former EDL leader Tommy Robinson turns ugly. Police clash with protesters in the heart of London with steel fences and bottles thrown and 5 arrests made. So yeah, this is not good optics at all for our free speech movement. That these guys that are fighting don't look good. Like they're like wearing MAGA hats. They all look like working class dudes that are fighting, like throwing fences at police officers. It does not look good at all. This is awful optics, and optics do matter for our movement, for the free speech movement. And I do not condone, in fact condemn everything that has happened in the violent part of the march for Tommy Robinson. So
who started the violence in this case?
I believe it was the Tommy Robinson people. They started attacking police, but I don't know. It's just the fact that it continues to go on, and that I'll go on to the article. So violent scenes erupted as hundreds of demonstrators marched through London against the jailing of former far-right leader Tommy Robinson. Again, I wouldn't class him as far-right. I'd just class him as solidly right-wing. The march on Whitehall on Saturday was the latest following to Robinson's imprisonment for contempt of court last month. Steel fences and bottles were thrown at police, who made 5 arrests. Yeah, so yeah, it was the protesters who started the violence against the police, and arrests were made. So during the protests,
thing.
Sorry?
See, I originally thought the police had initiated.
Yeah. So during the protest, there were scenes of violence which saw bottles, metal barriers, and other objects thrown at officers, police said in a statement. Yeah, again, awful optics. I mean, if you're looking at these pictures, you might look them up. I mean, it just doesn't look good at all. It's just like these people just look like idiots who are throwing like some guys throwing a beer can at the police. These guys just look like hooligans. I mean, it's awful optics, and like the police trying to like push through the crowd. It's bad. It's just bad.
Yeah.
Um. So this is pretty interesting. I think it's pretty revealing about the left. So Bill Maher, who's our favorite guy, this is from National Review. Bill Maher, bring on the recession if it will remove Trump.
I actually like Bill Maher, but this is retarded.
Yeah. Comedian Bill Maher said on Friday's episode of his HBO show Real Time that he has no problem with the country sinking into an economic recession if it is detrimental to President Trump. By the way, I'm hoping for it because one way you get rid of Trump is a crashing economy. So please bring on the recession, Maher said. Sorry if that hurts people, but it's either root for a recession or you lose your democracy. I feel like the bottom has to fall out at some point.
I don't understand how Trump has been anti-democracy at all.
Yeah. And like they're like, oh my God, he's anti-media. People were anti-media before Trump, and he has every reason to be anti-media because they lie about. I mean, yes, there are a ton of stupid shit there's a ton of stupid shit that he does, but I mean, they also lie about a ton of other stupid shit. And they also lie about his supporters. They lie about his associates. I mean, again, who also do stupid shit, but I mean, there's also a ton of lies. So he has every reason to be anti-media, and the media even before Trump had a giant anti-right-wing bias. I
Yep.
think it's completely I think it's completely reasonable and rational to call the news media fake news. Because I mean you've got CNN who had like there was like wasn't it like I think you talked about this before. There was like a shooting somewhere and it was like there was like a 30 dead in shooting
Yeah.
and then at the bottom of the screen it was rolling like breaking Titanic sunk 100 years ago. Like that kind of thing. I don't know how else to describe it rather than just fake news.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this just shows that I mean, Bill Maher and people on the left, they don't actually care about anything apart from their partisan, like just being on a partisan side. Uh, so now we move on to the G7 summit. So the absolute chaos of Donald Trump's G7 summit and what it means moving forward. So, with only hours remaining before a historic summit between the leaders of the United States and North Korea, it's easy to lose sight of what President Donald Trump and some of his top staffers said and did just before arriving in Singapore. Blow up an international gathering with some of America's closest allies with a combination of erratic behavior and hugely impolitic statements. Whatever happens in Singapore over the next day or two, and we'll get onto that because it already happened, it's uniquely possible and maybe even likely that what Trump did in Quebec on Friday and Saturday will matter more in the country's long-term geopolitical future and not in a good way. Let's detail what happened in the 36-ish hours Trump spent in Quebec and what he and his allies said once he left. Before Trump even jetted to the conference on Friday morning, he floated the possibility of Russia rejoining the G7, and Russia was kicked out of the group after invading Ukraine and annexing Crimea in 2014, so that's a stupid thing to say. But Trump arrived late for a gathering of G7 leaders focused on a gender diversity, gender diversity breakfast on Saturday morning, and they started the meeting without him, which I thought was actually savage.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with him arriving late. I think that was pretty funny because you got all like the photo ops of him walking into this breakfast late while this woman's giving a speech about the patriarchy, which I thought was pretty great.
Why do we need a fucking gender diversity lunch? Whatever.
Yeah, it was fucking stupid. Trump held a wide-ranging news conference, and I hate the tone that like this guy Chris Cillizza. I hate the tone that he uses. That like all these like millennial reporters and politicos use journos. So he held a wide-ranging news conference before he left Quebec to jet to Singapore. In that presser, he described the meeting as a 10 out of 10 and insisted that he had a very close personal relationship with, among others, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, our best friend, French President, the woke centrist Emmanuel Macron, and German Chancellor Angela Merkel, the Iron Lady of Germany.
Is she actually called that?
Huh?
Is she actually called the Iron Lady?
Yeah, I think they call her the Iron Chancellor.
Doesn't that just sound a little bit Nazistic?
I think that's Anyway, after apparently watching Trudeau press conference on Air Force One. Trump took to Twitter to attack the Canadian Prime Minister. PM Justin Trudeau of Canada acted so meek and mild during our G7 meetings only to give a news conference after I left, saying that U.S. tariffs were kind of insulting and that he will not be pushed around, tweeted Trump. Very dishonest and weak. Our tariffs are in response to his 270% on dairy. Let me just say, the tariffs are stupid, no matter who puts them on. It's a tax on your own citizens. Trade deficits mean nothing. And free trade is the way to go. So whoever's putting the tariffs in force, Trump is contributing to it. It's a stupid thing. And Trudeau, he's also being stupid by putting retaliatory tariffs. I mean, it's just all stupid. I mean, that's the summation of of the state of our politics. Just all stupid. All leaders are just idiots.
Government's bad.
Yep. So Chief Trump economic advisor Larry Kudlow went on CNN State of the Union and called Trudeau's news conference a betrayal, adding he stabbed us in the back. And by the way, Larry Kudlow had a heart attack right after that. And he's currently in the hospital. So wish him all...
Trudeau's betrayal. He was just heartbroken.
Yeah. I mean, I wish him all the best. I think he's like one of the sane economic advisors within the Trump administration. He's not like a complete protectionist. So Peter Navarro, a trade advisor for Trump, was even more damning in his comments about Trudeau. He said there's a special place in hell for any foreign leader that engages in bad faith diplomacy. So
like Trump.
Yeah, he's referencing Trudeau there.
I
bet there is a special place in hell for Trudeau, honestly.
Yes, it's where that reporter just grabs him by the crotch for the rest of his life.
Yeah, so the whole thing was that, that there are all these tariffs again, idiotic. I think we'll just move on. I don't have much to say there. Apart, the best part was basically just, the gender empowerment thing. That was pretty great. So, this is about the North Korea summit. Trump, in surprise summit move, says he will halt Korea war games. So U.S. President Donald Trump made a stunning concession to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who looks like a nuclear bomb, by the way, on Tuesday after halting military exercises, pulling a surprise at a summit that baffled allies, military officials, and lawmakers from his own Republican Party. At a news conference after the historic meeting with Kim in Singapore, Trump announced he would halt what he called very provocative and expensive regular military exercises that the United States stages with South Korea. That was sure to rattle close allies South Korea and Japan. North Korea has long sought an end to the war games. So yeah, you see all the hawks in the government really triggered about this because they want to continue basically aggravating North Korea on the border by doing these war games. And then you also see people praising Trump, saying, "Oh, this is like an amazing art of the deal, underwater 4-dimensional chess," that kind of thing.
It's neither.
Yeah, exactly. I can't say I'm too sure whether it's a good move or not because I am going to withhold judgment until we know for sure that North Korea is pledging to denuclearize completely. If they pledge to denuclearize completely and we withdraw war games, yeah, and they actually do, because they've pledged already like 5 times. But if they actually do it and we withdraw war games, then it's a good decision. But from then, I'm going to withhold judgment. But yeah, people are freaking out on both sides of the aisle as per usual, and I just think it's stupid. So
I think that's pretty much a libertarian on everything.
Yeah. So Bubba Bill Clinton, norms have changed for what you can do to someone against their will, from CNN. Oh God.
From the Clintons.
Oh Bill. Oh Bill. Yeah. So he's just fudging everything off when it comes to like the sexual harassment stuff. But he says
I did not have sexual relations with that one.
Yeah. Wait. Let me. So. Former President Bill Clinton suggested that the norms have changed in society for what you can do to someone against their will in response to a question about former Minnesota Senator Al Franken's resignation from Congress following sexual harassment allegations. I think the norms have really changed in terms of what you can do to someone against their will and how much you can crowd their space and make them miserable at work, Clinton told PBS NewsHour in an interview that aired Thursday. You don't have to physically assault somebody to make them feel, uncomfortable at work or at home or in their other, just walking around. That, I think, is good. So, yeah, I mean, Clinton being a hypocrite, as usual. Does anyone remember Lewinsky? No? Anyone remember? Okay. Never
I
mind.
mean, my whole view on Lewinsky thing was couldn't he have chosen like a hotter person to sexually assault?
Yeah, Lewinsky wasn't even that attractive. Um. Anyway, uh, here we look at the glories of socialism. Is polio re-emerging in Venezuela nearly 30 years after eradication from CNN?
Probably.
A child has been diagnosed with a common symptom of polio in Venezuela, where the infectious viral disease has been eradicated since 1989, according to the Pan American Health Organization, a regional apparatus of the World Health Organization. The Western Hemisphere has been certified polio-free since 1994. Well, apparently not. Uh, in a statement to CNN, the WHO said an acute flaccid paralysis case is currently being investigated in the state of Delta Amacuro, Venezuela. Acute flaccid paralysis is a sudden onset of weakness in or loss of the ability to move any part of the body of a child less than 15 years of age. Until additional laboratory results are received, polio cannot be confirmed, the WHO said. Oh, but it's universal health care. Guys, it's universal health care, so everything will be all right.
Of course.
Got it?
Yep.
So now we move on to the meme segment. And would you mind, you have an echo right there.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. Um,
On my phone.
oh, okay. That makes sense. So onto our meme segment. Oh crap! I have to unblock ads. Pause on this.
This is going fairly long. How long has this been going for?
An hour and 20 minutes. All right. Just all right. And onto our meme segment. So from the Washington Post, a middle school teacher charged for feeding live puppy to snapping turtle while students watched.
That's some new fetish shit.
Yeah, the students watched as the sick puppy was eaten alive by a snapping turtle in a Preston, Idaho junior high classroom in early March, state prosecutors alleged in a Friday filing. I just don't even know what to. I don't even know anymore.
I don't
I
know what
don't
to
even know how to
say.
respond.
This is some interesting. How fucked up do you think those kids are gonna be?
Very. And how fucked up do you think that teacher is? She probably has some real issues.
I think it's because women aren't empowered enough, personally.
Yeah, probably. So this is from the Next Web, and this gave me a good laugh. John McAfee, if you're familiar with him, are you, Smith? The libertarian dude?
Yes.
So John McAfee announced his bid for 2020 presidential election. Cryptocurrency.
Nice. Oh my god, he's my fucking favorite.
Yeah, exactly. Cryptocurrency firebrand John McAfee yesterday announced his intent to run in the 2020 U.S. presidential race.
I'm voting. I'm voting for him.
Same. Actually, I won't be old enough, but you will. So yeah, you should vote for him. File this under Not a Chance in Hell. McAfee, a British-born U.S. citizen with a checkered past, sought the Libertarian Party candidacy for the 2016 presidential election, but lost to Gary Johnson. So yeah, he can't be a president. He can't be president because he's born in Britain. But anyway, this time, however, he appears to be ready to sally forth, even if he can't get the Libertarian nomination. So he tweeted, "In spite of past refusals, I have decided to run again for POTUS in 2020. If asked again by the Libertarian Party, I will run with them. If not, I will create my own party. I believe this will best serve the crypto community by providing the ultimate campaign platform for us." This is so good. This is so good.
Why don't you want to vote for John McAfee?
I just said I do.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying he won't be president because he was born in the UK.
I actually disagree with that. I think people should be, if they have citizenship, should be allowed to. Right?
Yeah, same. But I'm just saying he can't be. But
I know.
his platform is so he's a cryptocurrency advocate who believes cannabis should be legalized. Yes, businesses should be allowed to discriminate on the basis of religion. Yes, and the TSA should be shut down. Yes, yes. This guy is our man. This guy is our man. He's also been implicated in a murder by the government of Belize, which he claims is part of a conspiracy to extort him. And if the value of his Bitcoin doesn't reach $1 million by the end of 2020, he says he'll eat his own penis.
He'll eat his own what?
He'll eat his own penis.
I love this man.
Oh god, this guy's so good. We have to get him on the podcast.
Can we actually?
Yeah, we can actually. Yeah, I'm actually gonna try to get him. I'm not even kidding.
Oh god. Can we
He's
ask
so
him why
good.
his fucking thing is so shit?
Oh god.
Even he admits that McAfee is shit.
Yeah. Anyway, so
By the way, has anyone seen the commercial where he snorts coke off hookers' tits?
yes, I saw that. It's amazing. Um,
He's who I
anyway,
aspire to be.
so from the Huffington Post, gubernatorial candidate airs same-sex kiss for Fox and Friends viewers. Maryland State Senator Rich Madaleno, Democratic, wants two things: to be elected governor of a state and to irritate President Donald Trump. So, like in the ad, he says he listed accomplishment including sponsoring legislation to support Planned Parenthood and a measure to ban assault weapons, which he says will infuriate the president and his conservative allies. Take that, Trump! Madaleno supporters, including several children, chime in after each other. I don't think that you should really weaponize children in your campaign ads, but whatever. For the kicker, Madaleno turns to
We
his
should
husband.
weaponize children. I agree. That's our new weapon. We're gonna fucking catapult them at like 200 miles per hour.
So for the kicker, Madaleno turns to his husband, Mark Hodge, for a kiss. Like, I don't even get that. He just says, take that, Trump. Trump isn't homophobic, to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure he was in favor of gay rights before Hillary Clinton or Obama were.
He's a New
Wasn't
Yorker who he did not give a fuck.
he? Exactly. He's just a New York businessman. I don't think he has anything against the gays. And, I mean, he has a lot of gay people in his administration. If he was really anti-gay, I don't think he would have done that. But this is, again, a pretty good story from RT. State, you want to listen to this, Smith. State-funded feminist porn could be the future of German sex ed.
What? Can you repeat that, please?
Okay. State-funded feminist porn could be the future of German sex ed.
Why?
Because social justice.
What's feminist porn? You being berated for sexualizing women by jacking off?
No, apparently it's unrealistic body type, or sorry, it's fat people, old people, young people, skinny people. That's what it says.
There's already fetishes.
Exactly. And so Germany's Social Democratic Party is considering providing state funding for feminist pornography in an effort to tackle racist, sexist, and damaging stereotypes in mainstream porn. There are okay, you can look up like black as a thing. That's a thing. Like you can look up black, you can look up Asian, you can look up Latino, whatever. You can look up disabled, you can look up old, young, fat. They're all fetishes already on porn. Like, what's the whole point? And now the state, if you're a German citizen, your tax dollars are going to fund this.
I mean, at least they're going to funding porn rather than banning it.
Fair. So Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, this is from Business Insider. Jack Dorsey apologized after promoting Chick-fil-A during Pride Month.
Why?
Because Chick-fil-A, remember that they're run by Christian conservatives, so that they're a big no-no.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey received a flurry of backlash after he tweeted that he ate Chick-fil-A this month, which also happened to be LGBT plus Pride Month. Dorsey posted a photo on Saturday with the caption "Boost" at Chick-fil-A, showing he had saved 10% on an order at the fast food chain. Critics immediately pointed out that the Atlanta-based company has a long, contentious relationship with the LGBT plus community. The former CNN anchor Soledad O'Brien tweeted, "This is an interesting company to boost during Pride Month at Jack." Dorsey responded, "You're right, completely forgot about their background." So he just cucked immediately instead of saying, "I want to eat chicken sandwiches." And by the way, Dave Rubin, who's an absolute savage, and he's gay, by the way, he tweeted out, "I'm a guy who's married to a man who wants to eat who will eat chicken sandwiches whenever," and he posted pictures from next to Chick-fil-A. So that's pretty great. Smith, you there?
Yes.
Okay, so sorry. We're almost done. We're on like the last couple articles. I'm just I'm not
Sorry.
feeling
Sorry.
well.
I got distracted.
No, sorry.
I'm getting horny because of all that German funded feminist porn.
Oh, um, sorry. I'm not feeling well. It happens when if I talk too much, I don't breathe in enough, and then I start to lose oxygen to my hands, so I can't feel my hands.
Okay.
But sorry. Anyway, we'll continue. All right. Anyway, so this is from Medium. Why pedophilia and pedophiles are not a risk to children. You know what? I'm not even going to read this article. Just God.
What is with the new? What is this new pedophilia apology?
Yeah, like Me and my friend, you'll know who he is, the Brazilian.
Yeah.
A couple months ago we actually put a bet that the feminists and everything and everyone would start defending pedophilia soon, and we won that bet. Um, uh, it's it's truly I just don't understand it. It's pretty sad actually. So this is actually the best article I've seen in the entire year. The best thing ever. Did I think I sent this to you? So this is from Vox. Dennis Rodman in a MAGA hat crying on CNN Live
Yeah.
from Singapore is a thing that just happened. He also gave a shout out to Pearl Jam's Eddie Vedder because why the hell not?
I love Eddie Vedder. Okay. I'm actually going to see Pearl Jam when I'm in England this summer.
That's amazing. Great.
I'm like a huge Eddie Vedder fan.
So anyway, on Monday night, as President Donald Trump and North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un met behind closed doors for their historic nuclear summit in Singapore, CNN turned to its top North Korea analyst, Dennis Rodman. The former NBA star is a longtime friend of the North Korean leader, and until recently was one of the few people alive to have met both Kim and Trump in person. Sporting a T-shirt promoting a marijuana-related cryptocurrency company called Potcoin, a red "Make America Great Again" hat, and lip and nose rings. Rodman spoke to CNN live from Singapore. Though he wasn't actually invited to attend the summit, he flew there anyway on a trip sponsored by Potcoin, the cryptocurrency business. At one point during the interview with CNN's Chris Cuomo, Rodman broke into tears, remembering his first trip to North Korea and how he received death threats when he came back to the U.S. So I watched the interview, and Rodman is like bawling, and Cuomo's trying like not to laugh. Like you can see him like smirking and trying not to laugh. It's just hilarious. It's the best thing ever. And then he's wearing this MAGA hat, nose ring, Potcoin T-shirt. It's like that sums up some guy. I think his name was like Benji Sarlin. So shout out to Benji Sarlin. He tweeted, "If this doesn't sum up our era, I don't know what does."
Yeah.
This, which I think is a very astute observation. So yeah, that'll bring us to the end of today's podcast. Quite enjoyable. And yeah, so thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one, which will hopefully be on Friday. If Smith allows me to host one solo one, just so I can make fun of Islam, I'll make a very short one where I just take articles about Islam.
I
But
want to be part of that though.
yeah, but you won't. Will you be available on Friday?
I might have to make time to be part of the Islam episode.
Okay, good. All right, we'll see you then. So we'll see you on Friday, hopefully. Sorry for the hiatus, but yes. So check us out on Patreon, SoundCloud, YouTube, Twitter, wherever. Retweet our tweets. Please go to Patreon and donate if you like our content. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in the next one. This is Locke.
This is Smith signing off.
Signing out.